Her light is up unto the nations, her voice a call to return. And we're having this exciting global conversation about our upcoming marriage of Venus and Earth, the true ascension that is neither one or the other. Beyond duality, why the only difference between the tree of knowledge and the tree of life is one was one or the other, good and evil. The tree of life is the blending. And how do we do that? We've been trying, so many of us, for so many decades now, to be love and light. And yet we are stuck. And we're getting unstuck through these conversations, aren't we? We're getting unstuck. Why, the key to my little abode here in the garden is often stuck right now. And the only way I can get it to unstick is to turn it in the opposite direction, patiently listening for the little click that says it can turn and proceed fully into the unlocking. In other words, part of why we're stuck is we're all afraid to be, in the Buddhist tradition, actively present to where the pain is on earth. We all want to rush into it feeling good without being confident that we have the stamina like the bull, the strength like the bull, the power like the bull, to charge into where the darkness is as warriors of light. That's right. The reason that we're not ascending is we have an aversion to working with compassion to where the darkness has made itself a block, an obstacle, plugged us up. So I'm going to review a little today about how that looks functionally, so we can revisit the joy of the new heaven and the new earth as a global community, with Mother, Father here anchored in the heart of the garden. That is Shambhala emerging. So let's think about this. Well, I've one little quick quote for you here. This is from Luke chapter 11, verse 33. No one, after lighting a lamp, puts it in a cellar or under a basket, but on a stand, so that those who enter may see the light. Your eye is the lamp of your body. When your eye is healthy, your whole body is full of light. But when it is bad, your body is full of darkness. Therefore, be careful, lest the light in you be darkness. If then your whole body is full of light, having no part dark, it will be wholly light, as when a lamp with its rays gives you light. That's why the symbol I provide us for the new heaven and the new earth is the body of the divine masculine, the gift he gave us when he introduced heaven consciousness, in a lantern. And we have, I'm hoping as we work together here, we have a lantern made of ceramic or wood, and then the body is there with a flame behind it to illuminate it. And we use that as our symbol. But listen, the old way, the way of duality said, I think, therefore I am. And what do we say in Shambhala and all that we precipitate as Shambhala? I perceive, therefore I am. I perceive, therefore I am. And when we do that, it says, your eye is the lamp of your whole body. When your eye is healthy, your whole body is full of light. But when it is bad, your body is full of darkness. Therefore, be careful, lest the light in you be darkness. So if you are a listener who has an aversion to any faith or nation, or a judgment against any faith or nation, that care isn't being taken, and there is darkness in your perception itself. Judgment is darkness. So we can sit with what's painful without feeling frightened or antagonized. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what's happened to me recently that's made it hard for me to have gotten the garden going as quickly as I might have wished. For as you all know, I discovered the garden on 11/11. And now we're in our full moon in the new cycle of January. Why, it was just 1/11. What happened the 2 nights after I found this beautiful sanctuary was that I went traveling on a chicken bus to another part of the country. And that night, where I was staying was turned into a facility to give me some medical tests and interrogate me in a dissociated state. I know this is hard, and I'm safe now, and that's why the garden's so important, because anybody who's in my position as a holy person needs a safe container. Yes, some sodium pentothal was injected into my nostril so that high doses can function as a truth serum. And I was interrogated. A medical test was done to look at my fertility, and artificial insemination was done. It was very terrifying, and I returned to the garden and collapsed. I wrote several very frightened emails, trying urgently to ask key members to come into the garden, but nobody wanted to because I was so frightened. But then the indigenous community, who knew I am who I am, came in and provided my soul, just as it can all who are in the garden. Shamanic healing of the soul is so powerful, and I received a great deal of care over the next several weeks so that I can be renewed and more integrated and more whole as we talk about moving forward. The only reason I get into that story is this is what's happening outside our awareness. We have this funny phenomena where many of us who are the holy people are being controlled by that silly Mars agenda. And the Mars plan with the colonization will never come to fruition successfully. Don't worry, we won't ever allow that to happen. But because it's been organized over decades, since World War II in particular, in a dissociated state, until we can break the global dissociation, those who are making it happen have no idea that they're doing it. As a matter of fact, I woke up after they did the interrogation and the sodium pentothal wore off, and it was about 3 in the morning. And I was sitting in the courtyard, and the medical doctor got up to use the toilet, and he saw me sitting there. Now I'm not dissociated at all. And then his wife, who was the nurse, got up, and she looked at me and went back in the room and said to him, "She's sitting out there." Well, you might think they're the enemy, but they're not. They were dissociated, and they were just doing what they were told in a dissociated state to serve and protect. Now, one of the people who played a big role is a daughter in the garden. That's right, I love her so much, and I can't wait for her never to have to be dissociated again. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is that darkness wants to have me or you think, oh, there's some bad guy out there. But the only bad guy is the darkness that's co-opted many of us who are the holy people's consciousness in a dissociated state. So when we can be at peace in the Buddhist sense, that this is something that we can be spacious with, we can sit with, we can be present to. That's what all meditation teaches, how to be with our anxiety, our racing thoughts. You see, one quick other reading about division. Of course, this is from the same chapter of Luke 11:11. Every kingdom divided against itself is laid waste, and a divided household falls. And then it goes on to say, when a strong man, fully armed, guards his own palace, his goods are safe. But when one stronger than he attacks him and overcomes him, he takes away his armor in which he trusted and divides his spoil. Whoever is not with me is against me, and whoever does not gather with me scatters. That's why it was so important to the darkness that there be a sense right from the get-go. The programming in the Global Dissociation really got in there before we even saw the end of our Master of Love's time on earth, to make sure that his own people would be heavily brainwashed to never, never accept him. They wanted to divide that place that was meant to unify. And then, of course, we can look at all the ways that that scattering has been furthered by the darkness. But we who are here to see us into this time of Shambhala are not going to let that happen. We're not going to divide. We're going to unify. Unify. So, I started to talk about how this is a new time, a time where we have the wisdom and the insight to get that the depth of darkness across countries and nations, co-opting the holy families and the children being accessed without anybody meaning to and programmed without anyone meaning to, can only be stopped by us coming together. And the garden is the heart of healing. It is meant to be a place of rehabilitation and transition for those of us who are the holy people, to begin the global healing, to put together our user manual for all institutions that uphold God and exist at this time as a form of support for God, from mosques to synagogues, from Christian churches to New Earth communities, to have the precipitation of Shambhala, the pure snow, where we come together, is the fifth element that is change itself, alchemizes the darkness. Not by doing this about it, but by doing this about it. And I think Andrew and I's journey demonstrates that anybody who wants grace can receive it. Now, because it's so deep in us who are the holy ones, I can honestly say we all have seen me be toppled again and again by fear or trauma. But what can work to break that is intensive care. That's why in the garden I want to offer equine therapy, garden therapy, swimming therapy, oxygen therapy, acupressure, healing touch, cuisine therapy, satsang, a cross face, because this level of trauma is beyond a one quick fix. And of course, at the root of it all is the children of the earth who stayed close to the indigenous tradition and know how to work with the recovery of the whole soul. The doctors, the psychiatrist, and the psychologist in one. But I don't want to glorify them because they need our care and support too. It's neither one nor the other. I found this wonderful branch recently, and when I was gifted it, I was given the message that the stag, that is that unifying king, his divine feminine branches on his antlers don't have the proper points or leafing because of the trauma. When the wounded masculine has tipped us into domination, it wounds the feminine, and then we're stuck. So our solution here is for those of us who really are starting to trust that I'm not trying to antagonize, but enlighten, that we have to turn the key the opposite direction. We have to work together to go into the frequencies we want to disavow or ignore and say we're only happy, but not go into it with fright. Go into it with wisdom, insight, compassion, and activism. This kind of activism, heart activism. When we turn the key in that direction, where we go into the darkness with love, and we understand what's happening, we dismantle its power in a way we never can if we want to say, I'm going to run off here and make my own little version of the new earth. And I don't want to acknowledge the big institutions because they're not healthy in my opinion. Well, it's just like me. I haven't been healthy because the trauma has been too great. But I'm restoring because there is a love greater called grace. And it's only as powerful as the actions you take, we take, to have a unifying center on the earth, to have the interdimensional journey begin there and make available for all of us who want Graceland to be available for all nations and faith. Because that Mars agenda can be discharged if we discharge the dissociation in our own hearts and households. So fear not, fear not. We are going to make it happen. There is a Shambhala. There is a divine union of masculine and feminine, so that the I am that I am can be available to all of us. That is when our Venus twin starts to integrate with us. Then we start to be able to become our own I am. So this is a journey that is unified by the Christ, who was gifted the authority of the Father, and the twin, the Kumara twin, Mora, who is the divine feminine or mother authority, no longer functioning as two, but as one. And guess what that includes? That includes that there are two ways we exist. In the new heaven and the new earth, there is a Shambhala community that is Mount Meru, and it is a very real community of interfaith leaders and saints that is functioning in a place where there is pearl light all the time. And in the center, there is the pearl electric light. It's like a campfire made of pure white goodness. And we meet there and we live there as union with our twins, which means my brother and I are one being. And we are in relationship with many of you who are the holy people who ascended into that state. And we work from there to serve the new earth. But that's not the only place we exist if we have a true twin. Many of us will also exist in the new earth as two. That's why I tell the stories in the Universal Christ teachings of broadcasting light about mother and father having a cabin with 8 children. That is also true. So the world beyond duality is one and the other. At all times, whatever you can imagine, both are true. That is the tree of life. All right, well, for today, I hope you're understanding more and more about how much I love you, how much I believe in you, how much I know this is a round table, and that you and your gifts and your power are essential to come into unification of the light as the light, so that the darkness no longer binds a single soul. And so it is. God is with us.